History is a puzzle, full of pieces that don't quite fit. What we know and what we think we know are often miles apart, tangled in mystery and unanswered questions. For every breakthrough, there's an event so bizarre, so unexplainable, it leaves even the sharpest minds baffled. From strange disappearances to ancient enigmas, these moments challenge everything we believe about the world around us. Some stories stick with us, not because they've been solved, but because they haven't. They whisper of the unknown, pulling us deeper into their web of intrigue. Let's explore 15 haunting events that no one on Earth can explain, even the Sherlock Holmes. Number 15. The Tunguska Event. On June 30th, 1908, a remote region of Siberia experienced an explosion so powerful it flattened 80 million trees across 770 square miles. Known as the Tunguska event, it shook the Earth with the force of 185 Hiroshima bombs. Witnesses described a fiery streak across the sky, followed by an ear-splitting blast that could be felt hundreds of miles away. The most widely accepted theory is that a meteoroid or comet exploded mid-air, releasing an unimaginable amount of energy. But there's a mystery. No impact crater was ever found. Unlike other meteorite strikes, this event left no physical evidence of the object responsible, fueling speculation and scientific curiosity for over a century. This event remains the largest explosion in recorded history not caused by a nuclear device. Its mystery endures, a haunting reminder of Earth's vulnerability to cosmic events. The lack of definitive answers only deepens the fascination with this massive, unexplained explosion. Number 14. European witch hunts. If you've ever lived in a small town, you know how quickly gossip can spiral out of control. But in rural Europe during the late 16th and early 17th centuries, rumors didn't just ruin reputations, they could cost you your life. All it took was a scorned neighbor, a misunderstood gesture, or an illness with no clear cause for someone to point a finger and cry, "Witch." Imagine bringing a neighbor food after a baby's birth, only for the child to fall ill the next day. Suddenly, you're accused of casting a curse. Or maybe you make an offhand remark in anger, and within days, you're being dragged to a witch trial. Logic didn't matter, and torture was the preferred method to force a confession. By the time the hysteria subsided in the late 1700s, 40,000 to 100,000 people, mostly women, had been executed. This wasn't about systematic religious cleansing. It was fueled by petty, vindictive accusations. It's a chilling reminder of how fear and superstition can unravel society. Number 13. Washington, D.C. Sniper attacks. A routine day turned into sheer terror during the D.C. sniper attacks of 2002. For 3 weeks in October, two men, John Allen Muhammad and Lee Boyd Malvo, drove a blue Chevrolet Caprice across Maryland, Virginia, and Washington, D.C., randomly targeting people with a high-powered rifle. Their killing spree began outside a Maryland craft store, narrowly missing their first victim. Moments later, they struck again, fatally shooting a man in a grocery store parking lot. From gas stations to schools, no place felt safe. 10 people were killed, and 3 were injured. Parents kept their kids home from school, gas stations installed tarps for protection, and fear gripped entire communities. When the killers were caught at a rest stop, the motives behind their rampage remained unclear. Some speculated it was an elaborate plan to conceal Muhammad's intent to murder his ex-wife, while others believed it was a sinister extortion plot. Regardless, their actions left an indelible scar on American history. Number 12. Cuban Missile Crisis. As I walked out of the president's Oval Office, I thought I might never live to see another Saturday night. Those chilling words came from Robert McNamara, John F. Kennedy's Secretary of Defense, during the Cuban Missile Crisis in October 1962, a moment when nuclear war seemed inevitable. At the center of the crisis was the Soviet Union's decision to place nuclear missiles in Cuba, just 90 miles from U.S. shores. American spy planes confirmed their presence, and President Kennedy acted swiftly, ordering a naval blockade to stop further deliveries. For 6 tense days, the world held its breath as both nations edged dangerously close to catastrophe. With U.S. forces at DEFCON 2, one step away from launching nuclear strikes, cooler heads miraculously prevailed. Soviet leader Nikita Khrushchev agreed to remove the missiles in exchange for a U.S. pledge not to invade Cuba and the withdrawal of U.S. missiles from Turkey. This near miss led to the famous hotline between Washington and Moscow, a sobering legacy of how close humanity came to annihilation. Number 11. Y2K. Perhaps more frightening than Y2K is the size of our old computer monitors. Back in December 1999, the world collectively held its breath as fears of the Y2K bug reached a fever pitch. Predictions of accidental missile launches, nuclear meltdowns, crashing airplanes, and financial chaos sent people into a survivalist frenzy. Bunkers were stocked with spam, survival camps filled up, and Time magazine set up a generator-powered war room. Despite reassurances from experts, the fear was contagious. So, what was Y2K? Well, it was a problem born in the 1960s when programmers, trying to save space, wrote dates with just 2 digits for the year, like 65 for 1965. Harmless then, but as the year 2000 loomed, concerns grew that systems might interpret 00 as 1900 instead, wreaking havoc on everything from bank interest rates to nuclear facilities. Millions were spent fixing the error, but panic lingered, fueled by fears of technological failure and apocalyptic religious theories. When the clock struck midnight on January 1, 2000, the world didn't implode. Aside from a few minor glitches, everything was fine. It was an anticlimactic end to a global panic, but it remains a testament to how easily fear of the unknown can take over. Number 10. 2004. Indian Ocean Tsunami. On the morning of December 26, 2004, paradise turned into a nightmare. Along the Indian Ocean coast, beachgoers enjoying the warm sun and calm waters spotted something strange on the horizon, a towering swell. What began as a curiosity quickly morphed into terror as the ocean surged toward land, transforming into a 100-foot wall of destruction. This disaster was triggered by a colossal 9.1 magnitude earthquake beneath the Indian Ocean, powerful enough to unleash energy equivalent to 23,000 atomic bombs. The quake violently shifted the ocean floor, displacing massive amounts of water that radiated outward in all directions, like ripples on a pond. But these ripples grew into monstrous waves. By the time the tsunami retreated, it had claimed nearly 228,000 lives across 14 countries. Entire communities in Indonesia were wiped off the map, their existence erased in moments. The tragedy left an indelible mark, but it also raised a terrifying question. Could it happen again? Well, let us know your theories below. Number 9. The Dancing Plague. In June 1374, the streets of Aachen, Germany, transformed into something out of a nightmare. People poured out of their homes, flailing and thrashing in a delirium that resembled manic dancing. This was the first major outbreak of what came to be known as the Dancing Plague, or choreomania. Centuries later, in 1518, the phenomenon struck again in Strasbourg, when a woman named Frau Troffea began dancing uncontrollably. Within weeks, 400 townsfolk had joined her in this frenzied dance of death. Medieval authorities offered superstitious explanations, blaming demonic possession, curses, or even venomous spider bites, a condition they called tarantism. Modern theories suggest the plague might have been triggered by extreme psychological stress from famine and disease, or ergot poisoning from contaminated rye, which can cause hallucinations and convulsions. To this day, the cause of the dancing plague remains unknown. Was it mass hysteria, a toxic reaction, or something stranger still? Number 8. The Green Children of Woolpit. In 12th century Suffolk, England, the quiet village of Woolpit became the stage for one of history's strangest mysteries. During King Stephen's reign, harvesters discovered 2 children emerging from a nearby pit. Their skin was an unnatural shade of green. Their clothing was made of an unfamiliar material, and they spoke in a language no one could recognize. The children were taken in by the villagers, but they would eat only green beans. Over time, the boy fell ill and died, but the girl recovered, gradually losing her green complexion. She eventually learned English and shared an astonishing story. According to her, she and her brother came from a land called St. Martin's, where the sun was dim and everyone had green skin. While exploring a cavern, they had become disoriented and emerged into this world. Were they orphans suffering from malnutrition or visitors from an underground realm? Nobody knows. Number 7. The Valdivia Earthquake, magnitude 9.5. On May 22, 1960, the ground beneath Chile shook with an intensity never before recorded. The Valdivia earthquake, also known as the Great Chilean Earthquake, registered a staggering magnitude of 9.5, making it the most powerful earthquake in history. For nearly 10 minutes, the earth trembled violently, reducing towns to rubble and triggering massive tsunamis that swept across the Pacific. In Chile alone, the quake claimed the lives of 1,600 people, injured over 3,000, and left 2 million homeless. But the devastation didn't end there. Tsunami waves struck as far as Hawaii, Japan, and the Philippines, killing over 200 people in coastal areas. Adding to the chaos, the earthquake triggered the eruption of the Cordon Cowal volcano, further compounding the destruction. The Valdivia earthquake was a sobering reminder of the immense power of nature. Number 6. The Black Death, bubonic plague. Between 1346 and 1353, Europe was gripped by one of the most devastating pandemics in history, the Black Death. This bubonic plague wiped out over 50 million people, claiming more than 60% of the continent's population. The epidemic originated in Central Asia, where rodents carried Yersinia pestis, the bacterium responsible for the disease, across vast trade routes. Infected fleas, seeking new hosts, bit humans, sparking an epidemic that swept through cities like wildfire. Victims developed fever, chills, and painful swollen lymph nodes called buboes. Left untreated, the infection spreads to the bloodstream and lungs, leading to death in 30% to 100% of cases. The Black Death was more than just a health crisis, it reshaped European society. Entire villages were abandoned, economies collapsed, and fear permeated daily life. Number 5. Yellowstone supervolcano eruptions. Castle Geyser erupts in the Upper Geyser Basin of Yellowstone National Park, a reminder of the raw, untamed power lying beneath. Yellowstone isn't just a beautiful park, it sits atop a sleeping giant, a supervolcano capable of eruptions so devastating they make Mount St. Helens look like a backyard fireworks show. The last 3 eruptions occurred 2.1 million, 1.3 million, and 640,000 years ago, with the oldest being the most catastrophic. It ejected 585 cubic miles of molten rock, creating the Huckleberry Ridge Tuff and reshaping the landscape. If another eruption of this magnitude happened today, the aftermath would be apocalyptic. Ash would blanket vast regions, crippling agriculture and choking waterways. Gases like sulfur dioxide could cool the climate for a decade, triggering crop failures and global chaos. While scientists assure us that such an eruption is extremely unlikely in the near future, the knowledge of what's beneath Yellowstone's surface is enough to spark both awe and unease. As we say, history is a mystery. Number 4. The Great Clown Scare of 2016. Remember the clown panic of 2016? It began with a single unsettling report in Greenville, South Carolina, where a boy claimed two clowns tried to lure him into the woods. What started as an eerie story spiraled into a global phenomenon. Soon, people in creepy clown costumes were popping up everywhere, from ditches in Kentucky to schoolyards in England. The internet amplified the hysteria, with pranksters faking threats and even mobs forming to hunt clowns. One woman in Alabama created a Facebook page for Flomo Clown, threatening violence, while police had to intervene in clown-related incidents worldwide. Even Stephen King, the author behind it and its terrifying clown Pennywise, urged people to calm down. But why clowns? Experts suggest their exaggerated features and unpredictable behavior tap into deep-seated fears. Whether it was a social experiment gone wrong or mass hysteria at its finest, the 2016 clown scare proved one thing: clowns, love them or hate them, will never be the same. Number 3. 9/11 World Trade Center and Pentagon attacks. On September 11, 2001, the world stood still. Terrorists hijacked 4 planes, crashing 2 into New York City's World Trade Center towers and 1 into the Pentagon. Nearly 3,000 lives were lost, leaving a profound scar on history. For many, the tragedy still feels like yesterday. It wasn't just the horrifying images of collapsing towers or the wreckage at the Pentagon. It was the shattering of a sense of safety. Families grieved loved ones, first responders became heroes, and the world reeled in disbelief at how hatred could fuel such destruction. The attacks reshaped global politics, sparked wars, and deepened conversations about security and humanity. Even today, the memory of 9/11 serves as a somber reminder of resilience in the face of unimaginable loss. Number 2. World War I. World War I, or the Great War, raged from 1914 to 1918, marking one of humanity's darkest chapters. The war claimed 17 million lives, leaving families broken and entire regions devastated. It wasn't just a battle of nations. It was a clash of empires, ideologies, and unchecked ambition. The conflict began with the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, but beneath that spark lay deeper causes: imperial rivalries, alliances, and militarization. Leaders like Kaiser Wilhelm II pursued domination at the cost of countless lives. Trenches became tombs, and technological warfare turned Europe into a battlefield of ruin. The war ended empires, reshaped borders, and planted seeds of discontent that would lead to World War II. The lessons of this war remind us of the catastrophic cost of hubris and greed. Number 1. The Emu War. While every event we've been talking about is haunting, this one is just outright bizarre. In 1932, Australia declared war, not against another country, but against emus, large flightless birds wreaking havoc on crops in Western Australia. Farmers, desperate for help, turned to the military. Armed with machine guns, soldiers set out to control the emu population. But the emus had other plans. Their speed, agility, and uncanny ability to scatter made them nearly impossible to target effectively. The war became a comedic failure, with the emus outsmarting the soldiers at every turn. In the end, the birds won, leaving Australia with one of history's strangest defeats. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you very soon.